Caligula, the cursed emperor, the monster WHO turned Rome into his personal hell. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, there will be much more about Rome.
In the endless chronicles of the Roman Empire, one name rises like a shadow soaked in blood: Gaius Julius Caesar Germanicus, the man history remembers as Caligula. Born to the noble line of heroes, grandson of emperors, forged in the military camps where power smelled of iron and ambition. But destiny did not carve his name among the gods of Rome. No, his name was etched in the deepest, darkest corners of the human soul. Today we walk into the life of Rome's third emperor. Not the leader, but the tyrant. Not the ruler, but the monster. A man whose reign of just 4 years drenched the eternal city in fear, paranoia, and slaughter. This is not the story of governance. This is the chronicle of horror. Gaius was born in 12 AD in Antium near Rome. Son of General Germanicus, idol of the legions. Adopted grandson of Augustus, chosen heir of imperial greatness. From the moment he opened his eyes, power seemed inevitable. Raised among the soldiers, clad in miniature boots called Caligula, the affectionate nickname was born: Caligula, the little boot, the soldier child. But beneath the innocent mask, tragedy sharpened its blade. At just 7 years old, he witnessed the fall of his own bloodline. His father Germanicus, beloved by Rome, dead under suspicious circumstances while campaigning in Syria. Whispers said poison. Rumors pointed fingers at Emperor Tiberius himself, a threat eliminated before it could rise. Agrippina the Elder, Caligula's mother, stood tall against the emperor, accusing him of murder. The response was merciless. She and 2 of her sons, exiled, tortured by isolation, crushed by the machinery of political revenge. Only young Caligula survived. Torn from the battlefield tents of his childhood, he was sent to Capri, the island palace of Tiberius, a realm of cruelty and decadence. Here, surrounded by perversion, by the suffocating madness of an old emperor drowning in his own fears, Caligula learned the first of many lessons. Power is the only god, and the gods do not know mercy. When Tiberius died in 37 AD, the Senate, desperate for peace, hailed Caligula as emperor. A beacon of hope, the grandson of Germanicus, the darling of the people. The first months of his reign felt like spring after a brutal winter. Political prisoners freed. Gladiatorial games for the masses. Soldiers rewarded. Rome smiled once more. But that smile would soon become a grimace. Only 6 months into his rule, an illness struck Caligula down, a fever, maybe encephalitis. Or perhaps the mind finally shattering beneath the weight of a haunted past. When he rose from that bed, the man they had crowned was gone. In his place stood something else entirely. No longer satisfied with ruling the empire, Caligula craved ownership of the soul. The whispers began. The emperor demanded divine honors, not after death, as tradition allowed, but in life. He dressed as Venus, as Apollo, as Jupiter. Statues of the gods were decapitated, their heads replaced with his own likeness. The temple of Castor and Pollux became his throne room. He sat between the twin gods as their equal, as if the heavens themselves had given him their crown. And those who questioned this divine claim, their blood was the price of gout. Caligula transformed executions into theater. Banquets served alongside torture. Grapes tasted sweeter while watching enemies flayed alive. Fathers slaughtered before the eyes of their sons. Sons executed while their fathers' final breaths still quivered. Pregnant women gutted, their unborn children ripped from the womb. Widows forbidden to weep, under threat of joining their dead in the afterlife. Madness became law. Treason declared by a single glance. If you stared at one of his statues without reverence, you were marked. Utter the word goat, and you courted death. A cruel joke at his expense, mocking the emperor's scruffy beard and wild appearance. No trial, no defense. The will of the tyrant decided who lived, and who was torn apart. The Roman Senate, backbone of the Republic, found itself reduced to ash beneath the emperor's boots. And in perhaps the most infamous insult of all, Caligula turned to his beloved horse, Incitatus. The steed drank from golden goblets, slept on silk, kept in a marble stable. the emperor declared his intent to make incitatus consul, the highest office of Rome, a position meant for statesmen, scholars, defenders of the law. Was this insanity, mockery, or was it the ultimate statement that even a beast was more worthy than the sycophants who dared call themselves senators? They laughed, they applauded, because to remain silent was to sign one's own death warrant. Then came the war on Neptune. The absurdity spiraled deeper into the abyss. Caligula, obsessed with conquest, ordered an invasion of Britain. His legions marched to the English Channel, poised for battle. But instead of crossing the waters, they received a different command: collect seashells, the bounty of the sea, tribute from Neptune himself to the Emperor of Rome. Soldiers filled their helmets with shells, their swords rusted. Untouched by war, Caligula stood proud, declaring victory over the god of the sea. But tyranny breeds resentment. Blood invites blades, and even gods, it seems, can bleed. On January 24th, 41 AD, as Caligula prepared to attend a performance at the Palatine Theater, betrayal struck. The Praetorian Guard, the very soldiers sworn to protect him, conspired, led by Cassius Chaerea, a tribune long humiliated by the emperor's cruelty. Caligula mocked Chaerea for his soft voice, called him womanly, fragile, but that voice was the last thing he heard. Chaerea's blade struck first. Others followed. The emperor fell beneath a storm of steel, stabbed over 30 times, his blood pooling on the marble floors of the palace. The purge did not end there. His wife, Caesonia, and their infant daughter were butchered as well. The memory of the monster was to be erased entirely. His corpse, buried in a nameless grave, denied even the dignity of a tombstone. No shrine, no sacred ground to remember the god who had fallen from the heavens. But memory does not die so easily. The ghost of Caligula remains. His story, a black stain on the pages of history. The echo of a nightmare from which Rome never fully awoke. What remains is a terrible lesson, the truth of absolute power when held by hands that only know cruelty. Rome survived, the empire endured, but in those 4 cursed years, the eternal city learned that destruction does not always come from outside its walls. Sometimes, the ruin of a civilization grows from within. Sometimes, the barbarian wears a laurel wreath. This was the story of Caligula, the cursed emperor. What turns a man into a god, and what makes that god become a demon? If you want to keep exploring the darkest corners of Rome, its tyrants, its battles, its sins and glories, subscribe, like, and share this video. Because history, when told as it deserves to be told, is more terrifying than any legend.